Hey everyone, welcome back to ArtosisCasts. Today we're going to be looking at Stork, playing against one of the best rising Zerg players in Absolute. Obviously Stork still in very good shape, makes ASL most of the time. Absolute, I don't believe has made it into ASL yet, but a very well-known Zerg player, very, very active. I've played him a lot of times in the ladder, very strong indeed. So yeah, it should be a good match, I think. Looking forward to seeing what type of shape Stork is in right now, because of course, you guys know the new ASL season doth approacheth. I obviously can't say any dates or anything like that, but you know, in the coming days or weeks or months, we'll have ASL coming up. So I do want to kind of jump around a little bit and see what type of shape everyone's in, right? See, okay, how good are we looking? Who's going to make it into ASL coming up, right? So yeah, it should be fun to see Stork. Haven't casted a game of his actually in a little bit here. And of course, seeing if Absolute looks like one of the Zerg players who's going to make that break in. You know, we have such a strong level of players just below that ASL cutoff line. I guess that's why CNSL is always so good, but yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing Stork play. All right, let's go. Guys, thanks for watching ArtosisCasts. A big thanks to everyone, of course, who has supported on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Artosis. If you want to do that, that's fantastic. If not, no problem. And big thanks to everyone who has supported. We've sponsored a lot of matches, like I mentioned in the past, CNSL sponsorship as well. So it is appreciated, guys. Now, let's take a look. This is a pool and a gas first, and Stork actually went for gateway. So this is actually kind of interesting because this looks to me like he wants to go for quick speed. So, like, is this just going to be a speedling pylon? I mean, I feel like Stork should be able to look at this and be like, yeah, okay, no problem. Your economy's going to be kind of weak, you know? Yeah, obviously there are some tricky tricks that could occur. There are some 2-hatch Muta builds against Protoss that have floated around a little bit. There are 2-hatch Hydra builds. They're kind of weird and not seen very often, but they exist. There's actually a cool speedling into kind of macro play, but I think normally you get the speed after the natural hatchery, I believe. If I'm remembering correctly, but I might not be. I haven't seen that build in a little bit, but it's actually one of my favorite ZVP builds. Well, anyways, we'll see which one Absolute's going for. Stork trying to keep this probe alive. Nexus actually gets started before any sort of forge or anything. An important thing to mention is generally what happens here is when they go pool first, you will have like a Zealot and a probe sit on the ramp, and then 2 others chase them around. Now, in this particular case, this is tight, and the Lings didn't get here yet. So he's got everything tight, but what will probably happen is the Lings will attack here, and the Zealots are going to have to do a dance back and forth. And if they let the Lings in, Stork might end up losing from that. That's a possibility. It can be pretty damaging if any speedlings get in your base. Now, speed is done, so the probe's going to die pretty quickly. And one thing it is going to see is that gas is being mined. That's important. Probably this will turn into a layer, right? Yeah. You don't want the probe to see exactly what you're doing with that gas. So he does go for a relatively quick layer off of that as well. We don't have a photon cannon yet. Would love to see it. He actually gets the Cybernex core before a photon cannon. There's the cannon. Yeah, I don't think there's enough Lings to really threaten this like I was talking about, right? Like, he'll come up, he'll do a little bit of the micro, right? And these will walk out, and then they'll walk back. And then they'll walk out, and they'll walk back. And it's just like, does the cannon finish before the gateway is at the critical low health? See? Very important dance. But he didn't, I thought he was going to do this like a little bit ago, and he didn't. Yeah, and now the cannon's in, so that's it. That section of the game is done. Sometimes that's a lot more intense, and this gets down in the red, and I think there was potential for that, and then it didn't happen. So we might have seen Absolute miss like a little bit of a window to potentially get some more damage, but not always, right? Okay. So the speedling's just going to sit outside. We have +1 already on the way. And we have that Stargate coming up as well. Spire coming up for Absolute down here. No big surprise there. Generally goes along with speed very, very well. And we'll see how many drones he's going to go for. Will he grab a second gas? Are we actually going to see Mutalisks here? Hard to say. Kind of a low econ, it feels like, right? I mean, anytime you open spawning pool into gas before your hatchery, that is by definition going to be a lower econ game. Getting that quick Zergling speed. It's not like he made a lot of lings. It's not like he did an all-in, but definitely that does set everything back a little bit. Now, Citadel coming up, as well as +1 air attack. Seems like Stork is crossing his T's, dotting his I's, doing everything pretty normally here. Pretty standard, pretty safe. No second gas or anything like that. No Hydralisk Den as of yet. There it goes. Hydralisk Den coming down. That first Corsair going to be popping out here shortly. Oh, no. There it is. It's like, yeah, that is kind of not very far along for where I thought it should be. Okay, so the Corsair coming down, and it's going to have to turn around pretty quickly because it'll see the completed Spire. So it's like, oh, okay, we got to be careful about that. Turns around. So he's got to defend as if it's Mutalisk, right? That's the thing. That's one of the strongest aspects of going for a Spire, right? Even if you only make 4 Scourge, your opponent has to pretend that it's Mutas to a certain degree. Secondary cannon going up so he can move out with his Zealots. He has quite a few 7 Zealots right now. +1 is not yet done. Legs just started. And he does have a Photon Cannon coming up here to make sure. You always have to have a Photon Cannon covering that Stargate. Otherwise, they can just fly in with Muta Scourge, sit 2 Scourge where the Corsairs pop out, and you can never make one again. Sunken on the way, so he knows how many Zealots are out there. Getting a very good Sim City down right now. More Corsairs still popping out. Still waiting on that +1 as well. Stork sitting, you know, pretty dark, right? He doesn't see a lot. He doesn't know a lot of what's going on. Right now, it is just Hydralisk production for Absolute. High Templars starting to come out here as well. Going to start... Oh! Well, that's a misread. That's a misread. He really thinks that this is Mutalisk. Of course, he hasn't seen a Hydralisk yet. He did see the Hydralisk Den with the Corsair, but that's normal regardless. So he's making that Archon. And the Archon, if they're making Hydras already and you're morphing an Archon, it's not good. So this looks definitely a bit better right now for Absolute. Now, it's not end of the world that you've made an Archon, but when he gets down here, he's not going to be particularly happy to get shot at by Hydras. He doesn't really have enough Zealots to do anything against this good SimCity, I think. Now, it looks like he thinks he does. He comes in. The SimCity is blocking a lot. Zealots starting to get around a little bit. Okay, Corsairs come in, start to push everything back here as well. The Sunken is doing heavy, heavy lifting here, by the way. Some of the Hydras do end up getting picked off, and in fact, he is going to lose a bunch of his Overlords, so that is actually pretty good for him, Stork. He did end up losing the Archon, and didn't really get drones, but he got a lot of Overlords, so we'll give him this one. Did a pretty good job of that. Obviously, a lot of Zealots have fallen now. Corsairs, though, they all make it out in one piece. They have that +1 air attack as well, so you're not going to want to switch into Mutalisks or anything like that. Whoa! Whoa, unexpected. So it looks like Stork wants to take this as his 3rd. If he can secure this as his 3rd, that's an amazing position. I just can't see it, though. He's got nothing up here. He's doing it completely risky. And, like, okay, he's sending the Zealots around. So as these Hydras come up and force this base not to be made, basically, he is going to hit in here. And there's not that many units. The Zealots can beat all this. So they're going to get in on top of these Hydralisks, deal a little bit of damage. Okay, this is... You see this SimCity, right? It's like Zealots come in, like, basically one single file. So he is going to have to run away now. It's crazy that he tried to make that. Now Absolute's going to know to just kind of look for that. A couple more cannons going up for Stork. He adds a couple more gates, so finally getting up to those 8 gateways. Did I see robotics? No robotics coming up as of yet. Okay, just started it right there. So he is getting up towards robotics, which is good because the Lurker upgrade is on the way here as well. Corsair is going to start another supply block here. Now, here's the thing. Like, Stork is doing a good job supply blocking Absolute a lot, right? And he's keeping his Corsairs alive, so that's, like, really, really good. But he is sacrificing a lot of Zealots. So it's basically, it's 3 base Zerg here going Mass Hydra, and then 2 base Protoss supply blocking and losing Zealots, right? I'm not the biggest fan of the way he's doing that. It looks cool. And I'm not going to say it's a completely trash move, but you do have to be careful about how many of your early game units you sacrifice, right? So it's like, okay, how many Hydras are they getting? How many Overlords are being gotten, right? Because it's like, okay, you know, you're hurting the economy some, but if you're losing too many Zealots and they're retaining some Hydras, well, each Overlord costs the same amount as a Zealot, and the production is much higher for Zerg, right? You only have 8 gateways here, so it's like you're very much gated on how many units, how big an army you can field, right? Like, it only comes out at a certain speed. The speed for Zerg on that macro is a lot quicker, so you have to be careful about that. Now, that being said, Stork does have a lot more supply, a lot more army supply right now. He's up about 30. So he's pulling back. He's got a good amount of Dragoons. He's got some High Templars in there. He has Observers on the way. Some Scourge being added in. The Lurkers coming up with the Hydras. Stork trying to take a more reasonable third base, a more defensive third base over here. Drone has been sent to the bottom left. So 4th base definitely on the mind of Absolute. Good roaming from Stork. This is something I mention all the time when we cast a PVZ that goes long on Retro, is that eventually, as a Protoss, you just it turns into a game of roaming, right? Now, that being said, I haven't actually seen a Zerg attempt what we're seeing right here. This is a massive, massive, massive Lurker contain, and he's making so many Lurkers, it's actually kind of crazy. He did make some Scourge as well, so I'm assuming that's going to be for picking off Observers, right? 1 Scourge can just kill an Observer. You need 3 Dragoon hits, and they have very low attack priority. So the Dragoons will not just auto-fire. Like, if you bring up a few Hydras and you bring up Scourge, like, your micro has to be unbelievable to pick those Scourge off before they hit your Observer. Really unbelievable. Okay, now, Stork is starting to break out here. Brings in his Dragoons. And, you know, it's a lot of Lurkers, but Stork is kind of smashing. He's killing a lot of Lurkers here. He's taking some damage on his Dragoons, to be sure. Of course, he's saving the Psy Storms for Hydras that come up. Just Lurkers are not that scary for the Dragoon Force, but the Hydras absolutely will decimate them, so he does have to be careful with that. Now, pulls back this group of Zealots as those Lurkers run up to burrow. Very nicely done. Gets back, and actually he's running around this Lurker contain. So this is pretty good. As these Lurkers come down to burrow, they're going to be much more susceptible to Psystorm. Huge Psystorm down here at the bottom. Stork starting to pick off a lot of these Lurkers. They are getting significant damage, though. All that splash damage dealing hundreds with each volley. Stork clears a lot, and GG is called kind of an all-in Lurker containment. You know, I'm a little bit surprised that he set that up. I want to just jump back for a moment because this was weird to me from Absolute. This was a weird move, right? We've seen a lot of PVZ on this map. Okay, so what generally happens on this map is Zerg makes this invincible. So basically that keeps them on 3 bases that are not attackable. And then it's about Zerg getting a 4th. Here, he's like, I'll get a 4th, but I'm going to contain you. And this is kind of wide open, right? This is not that small. Now, if you're containing like something this large, it's infinitely harder for Protoss to come out. But this is a big wide open area. There's a reason why no one really plays like this on this map, right? Maybe if you're wicked ahead, this can be a good move. But this just, it's like you have to keep them as storms width apart. And then when there's storms width apart, they don't really wreck the goons because the damage output isn't that much, right? When he's stepping into attack, 3 lurkers, maybe sometimes 4 lurkers are attacking at once. So he might have, in this case, 12 dragoons attacking, 3 lurkers attacking back. And even with that splash damage, this is a better trade for the dragoons. So I feel like Absolute was just playing the map in a weird way. This is very good on some maps, but it's like, not only is this hard to make work, even if you made this working well, Stork can go out this way and he can go out that way. So, you know, I feel like there's a lot of options there for Stork. Anyways, good to see that Stork still's got it. Not going to die to something dumb like a gigantic lurker contain. Guys, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. See you next time.